Hi and welcome to Made by E. Today I'm going to show you how to make this Korean dish called Jjajangmyeon, which is a black bean noodle dish. Koreans will say that this is a Chinese dish, but my hubby who is Chinese claims it is not, so I'm not exactly sure where it came from, but it is delicious. This video is dedicated to my friend Nick, who has asked me how to make this a few times, and now he and you can follow along on this video. These are the ingredients that you'll need: black bean sauce mix, Jjajang noodles, pickled radish, cucumber. The cucumber is technically more of a garnish, so you can just opt out of that if you want to. Cooking oil, onions, garlic, carrot, ginger. A pro tip on ginger, I typically will just mince up leftover ginger and store it in the freezer until I need it again. Potato starch, potato, zucchini, and pork belly. My mom actually prefers using beef over pork. The dish is actually typically made with pork, but if you wanted to use beef, you could definitely do that as well. And I forgot to put in the photo, but you'll also need a little bit of black pepper. Also want to go over some of the more unique Korean ingredients that might need some clarification. I use a Korean cucumber for this. You can definitely just use any other regular cucumber, whatever you can find should work. And again, it's more of a garnish, so if you just want to opt that out, you can. This is a pickled radish. It's also kind of optional. Most people will eat it as a side with their jjajangmyeon. It's in the refrigerated section and it usually comes in yellow, but I do get this undyed white version. I don't know, it just kind of makes me feel like it's a little bit healthier, but who knows. For the zucchini, I also typically just get a Korean zucchini. In Korean, it literally says here "gurin hobak," which means green zucchini, but I'm pretty sure any zucchini will work. For the jjajang mix, I prefer this powdered version. It does come in a jar in this like super concentrated sauce mix, but I think the powder version just tastes better in my opinion. And then for the noodles, I usually just get these in the refrigerated section, but you're just looking for something that says Jjajang noodle on the packaging. First thing I'm going to do is wash the cucumber, potato, zucchini, and carrot. I usually just rinse everything for about 20 seconds each. Then I go ahead and just peel my carrot and my potato. And then I basically just dice all of my veggies into small pieces. My potato, my carrot, and my onion. And about my onion, I originally was gonna dice 2 onions, but then when I diced up this one, it looked like it was gonna be enough, so I didn't do the second one. I should have just gone with my instincts from the beginning and diced up both. So if your onion looks like a similar size to mine, I would just go ahead and recommend using 2. It does taste better if you have more onion in your jjajangmyeon. Went ahead and diced my zucchini up as well. You can go ahead and make your vegetables larger if you want. I just prefer to have smaller veggies in my jjajangmyeon. But if you want to have like larger chunks of veggies, you can make them as big or small as you want. Then I minced my garlic. You should also mince your ginger at this point as well. Also cut my pork belly into smaller pieces. Again, same thing with the vegetables. If you want to keep the pork belly into bigger pieces or smaller pieces, that's totally up to you. It's just based on personal preference. Alright, moving on to the stove. In a large pot, I'm going to heat up some oil at medium-high heat first. And I'm just going to cook all the ingredients in a very specific order. First, I'm going to start with the pork belly and just stir around for about 1.5 minutes. Then I'm going to go ahead and add in my minced ginger and cook that for about 1 minute. Then I'm going to go ahead and add in my minced garlic and cook for about another minute or so. And now I'm going to go ahead and add in my onion. I turned the heat down to about medium at this point because I don't want to brown the onions, I just want to lightly cook them until they're translucent. I cooked them for about 4 minutes. Then I added about 4 dashes of black pepper. Next I added the carrots and continued to cook them for about 2 minutes. Then I added the potatoes and cooked them for about 2 minutes as well. I finally added the zucchini and cooked everything for about 2 more minutes. For this next part, I typically eyeball how much water to add. It really depends on how much you want your sauce to vegetable and meat ratio to be. For this particular pot, I added about 5.5 cups of water. Then I turn the heat back to high. Once the water comes to a boil, I'll start adding in the jjajang powder. I typically will add a little bit at a time, stirring in between. This is because the powder tends to clump up a little bit and you want to make sure you're breaking it up as you're adding it in. For this pot, I added about 3/4 cup of the jjajang powder, and I thought that was the perfect ratio. Then I'll just let the sauce simmer to ensure all the ingredients are incorporated, just making sure that I'm stirring here and there. At this point, I start another pot of water for the noodles. Timing-wise, I feel like this always works out for me. I'll have the noodles and the sauce ready relatively around the same time. And then I'll let the sauce simmer for about 5 more minutes. After letting the sauce simmer for a little bit, you want to go ahead and do a taste test. You want the sauce to be a tiny bit on the salty side because you are going to be pouring it over the noodles. I took a sip of mine and it was perfect, but if you feel like your sauce needs to be a little bit more saltier, you can go ahead and just add in more jjajang powder. At this point, I just want my sauce to thicken up, so I'll go ahead and add in some of the potato starch to help that process. The sauce tends to continue thickening a little bit after you take it off the heat, so just keep that in mind. It'll also continue to be a little bit thicker the next day. When I typically eat leftovers, I actually have to add in a little bit of water while I'm heating up the sauce again. Usually around this time, my other pot of water will start to boil, so I'll just go ahead and move the sauce out of the way, off the heat, and start my noodles. One of these bunches is supposed to be enough for 2 people, but on the days that I'm really hungry, I can definitely eat one of these on my own. So just make enough noodles for yourself depending on how hungry you are. And just make sure you cook your noodles according to the directions on the back of the packaging. These noodles needed to be boiled for about 5 to 6 minutes. Once your noodles are cooked, you want to rinse them in cold water to shock them. This will stop them from cooking any further, and it'll also wash off all that excess starch. And I'll usually do this part while my noodles are boiling, but I'll just slice up the cucumbers into thin strips. And I'll cut the pickled radish into bite-sized pieces. Most people and most restaurants will just cut these into half-circle shapes. And that's pretty much it. Grab a bowl for your noodles, top it with as much sauce as you want, garnish with cucumber, and enjoy with the pickled radishes on the side. I will add in a disclaimer, jjajangmyeon in Korea will always be 1,000 times more delicious than what you make at home. I don't know how they do it or what secret ingredient they're using in Korea, but this will hold me over until I can go and visit again. If you want a bit of a kick, you can also sprinkle in some of this gochugaru on top of your jjajangmyeon. This is just like a type of red pepper flakes, or some people also like to add a fried egg on top. You can also pour the sauce over some rice and make some jjajangbap, which is just jjajang rice. Either way, I hope you make it and will enjoy some soon.